It's right about time again to swerve again, confuse the general fans again. Add another swerve and then put it on a poll again. Put it on a poll again. Put it on the poll again. And R squared a quad.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of The Swerve. And I say very special because tonight's guest is Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. And we're going to talk about a monumental decision in the career of Kurt Angle's wrestling life. We're going to talk about that later on tonight. But before I get started, let me tell you, as usual, tonight there is a special during this edition of The Swerve. You can sign up as a VIP member and become a VIP member for life at only $3.95 a month. That's $3.95 a month. That's less than $1 a week. I don't know what you buy for less than $1 a week these days. I guess you could go to the dollar store and maybe buy a shoe on. Who knows? But anyway, $3.95 a month for life. The code word is Swerve Live. So throughout this broadcast, Swerve Live, if you want to join up as a VIP member and join the exclusive brand that's growing by the day. And I'm telling you, I'm just telling you, this VIP interview with Kurt Angle that the brand is going to see and the VIPs are going to see, bro, it gets right in the gut. This is no me lofting my friend Kurt softballs and us talking about, him being a member of the main event mafia. This is about the trials and tribulations of this man throughout his career in professional wrestling. And we hit the hard subjects. I'm telling you, I wrote a column today. One of my blogs was I was very conflicted about this interview with Kurt today because he's my friend, and it would have been very easy for me to just lob him softballs and talk about his illustrious career, but that's not what I wanted. And I know that's not what the brand and the VIP members wanted. I know you wanted me to ask the tough questions, and that's what I did. That's going to be in the VIP version of my interview with Kurt Angle. And like I said, it's a good 90 minutes. Bro, if it ain't worth $1 to you, then nothing's worth $1 to you. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, I got a lot to talk about tonight. I mean, there's so much happening. The first thing I got to say is, literally 15 minutes before I get started on my show, I'm seeing that, Bill Cosby again is in trouble. And now the latest news is a woman now is filing a lawsuit against Cosby all the way back to 1974 when she was 15 years old, and allegedly the Cos invited her and her other 15-year-old friend to the Playboy Mansion. He made them tell everybody they were 19, and then they wound up in a room alone with the guy. And I'm not going to get into the explicit detail, but I got to tell you, at the beginning, I was really feeling a little sorry for this guy, and I was feeling sorry for him because he's an old man. I'm not feeling sorry for him because of all these allegations and these things that he might have done. If he's guilty, then he should be punished. I just started feeling a little sorry for him because he's an old man, and now he's got to deal with this at 80 years old, whatever he is. But I mean, the fact is, every single day there's another story and another woman coming forward. Before tonight, there were 19 women. I mean, where there's smoke, there's got to be fire. Now there's more women coming today when they were 15 years old. But again, and I got to tell you this too. I gotta be better at this. Okay, this week. I listened to Colt Cabana's podcast. Right. Also today, I did a podcast of Chael Sonnen. He's an MMA guy. I think he's got the #1 podcast in the country, Chael Sonnen. And I never spoke to him before. I had to do my research and learn everything I could about him because I'm not an MMA guy. And the guy's interviewing me, cool, calm, and collected. The guy's a great interview. Cabana interviewing Punk, cool, calm, and collective. Cole Cabana does a really nice job with CM Punk. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, why do I lose my mind with every podcast I do? Why do I get excited? Why does my blood pressure go up? Why can't I just do a normal, calm podcast like Chael and like Cole Cabana? Every time I come on here, the blood pressure goes up, in the back of my hair starts sweating, and I don't understand that. So I'm gonna try to be cool as that. I think for the VIPs out there, I did my Raw review last night after the show, and I think I was very calm, cool, and collected. So I'm going to try to remain that way throughout the show. If something flips my lid along the way, it flips my lid along the way, and I'll apologize now. Here's the first thing I want to talk about. And listen, before I start talking, I want to introduce, my right-hand man and the guy that's made this all possible. Listen, without him, there's no Pyro and Ballyhoo. There's no way I do this on my own. There's no other imbecile that puts up with Vince Russo. I'm talking about Double C, Chris Cash. Chris, please come on, introduce yourself to the people.
What's up? I'm here.
That's it. That's all you got for me.
I don't need an introduction.
Bro, listen, I'm the guy that created, these over the top characters, Val Venus and Goldust and people like this. And I'm working with you, and the best you got is, hey, hello, what's going on? That's it.
You need to put your, money where your mouth is. Come up with something. I'll do it.
Don't even go there, bro. Because
give me some creativity, and I'll be there there with you.
Next week, your head will be shaved. You'll be wearing some kind of a beak, and you'll be making sounds we won't even know what you're saying. So don't even go there. Chris, you and I spoke a little bit last night about Raw, and Chris, I know you didn't watch the whole thing. But I want to discuss this with you because, bro, I got to tell you, Chris, I'm sorry. Bro, I went on the blog last night, to the VIPs, and I basically said, Raw literally had, no brains, no heart, and no balls. Period. End of story. You see my passion, Chris? You see I wave the arms when I talk and everything? Like, that's passion. I watched the 3-hour show last night. That was passionless. But you know what, bro? I'm not even going to get into that because I've become accustomed to that. I think a lot of the fans have become used to that. Chris, here's the thing that blew me away. And I want to get your take on it because I don't even know if you saw this. Chris, this absolutely blew me away because forget the 3 hours. This right here, bro, is exactly the state of the WWE, where Vince McMahon's head is at, and the exact problem why Raw is atrocious, okay? Chris, yesterday, an hour into the show, so it's 9 o'clock Eastern time, okay? They do the whole thing. The limo shows up. Vince comes out of the limo, okay, bro? We go to commercial break. So now we know Vince is in the building. Bro, why they do that an hour into the show, I have no idea. Why you don't do that at the top of the show? You do your opening segment. You do all your business in the ring. When the opening segment is over, before you go to that first commercial, that's when you bring Vince out. Why would you waste an hour to bring Vince out when you can bring him 15 minutes into the show? You can tease that he's in the arena and maybe something's going to happen. But, bro, that's not even my beef. Like, that makes total no sense why we wouldn't bring Vince in at 8:15 instead of 9 o'clock. That makes no sense. Bro, that's not even my beef, okay? So, Chris, now we come back from commercial break, okay? And that very attractive blonde is now interviewing Vince. Chris, you know that woman's name? It escapes me.
Renee Young.
Renee Young, okay? So now she's interviewing Vince. So now I'm like, okay, they were an hour late with this, but at least Vince is here. Vince is going to make something happen, okay? Bro, we're an hour into Raw, okay? Vince McMahon shows up. Vince McMahon is being interviewed, okay? Chris, all Vince McMahon talked about was his interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin following Raw on the WWE Network. That's what he was all excited about. That's what he was looking forward to. And that's all he said in his promo. You never saw the guy again. And bro, as a fan, sitting there watching Raw, and there's another 2 hours left in Raw. I'm sitting there, Chris, I'm watching Raw, and I'm saying to myself, here is the owner of the company, the chairman of the board of the company. He shows up on Raw, okay? Bro, doesn't even talk about Raw, doesn't even bring up Raw, doesn't even tease anything that might happen in the next 2 hours. He goes to the end of the show and he's telling everybody, oh, I'm looking forward to my interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the WWE Network. Literally, bro, the chairman of the board, the head of the company saying, forget this show. The next 2 hours are not important. I'm not even going to reference it. I'm not even going to talk about the show. It's not important. What's important is you watching my interview with Steve Austin on the WWE Network when this show is over. So hopefully you'll pay $9.99 for a subscription. Now, Chris, bro, I have to ask you, and I want your honest opinion. Bro, we didn't even talk about this before the show. Bro, am I out of my mind, or is this a part of the big issue? Has all the focus been put on the WWE Network that now the cornerstone of this company that always was the cornerstone, Monday Night Raw, is Monday Night Raw and oh, by the way now, where the chairman of the board is on the show and doesn't even reference the show?
I think that's where they're at right now. I think it's a sense of desperation. First and foremost, I think Vince McMahon is a phenomenal actor, but even he isn't that good of an actor to say that he's surprised or that he's excited about anything on Raw. He knew what the show was. So it'd be impossible for Vince to get excited and put over the show that he knew was written, that he knew was not going to be exciting to begin with. And I think the sense of desperation comes from, the network and needing to get the subscribers. Vince McMahon isn't a focal point right this minute on Raw. He gets thrown in there here and there. I think the focal point, despite the fact they weren't on Raw, is still the authority right now. I still think Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and/or will get back into power. Vince McMahon is taking kind of a back seat in front of the scenes, in front of the camera. So I think it was a matter of let's not utilize Vince too much on Raw. Let's not really put anything over on Raw because there wasn't much to put over. But it was Vince McMahon on the network afterward. The month of November that was free is over. They wanted to try to get those, resubscriptions, get people to sign up and get people to see something that they don't get to see every day, which is a sit-down interview with Stone Cold and Vince McMahon. It doesn't do anything for Raw, but on the business side of things, Vince, I do understand why they utilize Vince in that capacity.
Yeah, well, Chris, listen, bro, at the end of the day, I understand it's business. I mean, I do, and I understand the whole reason for the interview with Austin. Great idea, bro. I don't knock it for a second. Brilliant, great idea. I guess, Chris, because I worked so hard on Raw for so many years, and that show meant everything. To all of a sudden just be a fan and a spectator, and, in front of my eyes, the show becomes oh, by the way, there is a 3-hour television show, but it's more important that you watch the WWE Network when this is over. To me, I guess it affected me a little bit more differently because the show was near and dear to my heart. But Chris, I also got to tell you this, bro. You know, everything you're saying is correct. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. But Chris, when you do the math, okay, the more people that tune in for Monday Night Raw, the more eyeballs and the more people you have the opportunity to sell the WWE network to. So, you know, in this case, to me, it's a little bit about putting the cart in front of the horse. If you get them to Raw, if you build that Raw audience and you concentrate on that, once that audience is there, now you sell them the WWE Network.
Well, and Vince, wouldn't that have been fine had they, if the show was good without Vince, which, you know, most weeks it's without Vince. So if the show was being written in a way that it was compelling without Vince, I don't think you'd be blowing up over the fact that the cameo from Vince was just to plug the network that night. You know, if the rest of the show was compelling, I don't think you'd have a problem with it. But that's the fundamental issue that they have in the WWE right now. Sting comes back for a night. They screw it up. Vince is there. He's a big deal. The rest of the show is horrible. It's just the idea that Raw right now, 95% of the time, 95% of Raw is atrocious. If the rest of Raw was great, who cares if Vince McMahon shows up for 2 seconds and puts over the network and that's it?
Okay, Chris, great point. Valid point. Okay, here's my lob back to you. Okay, bro, Vince McMahon is in charge of the creative. I don't care if they got 55 writers. I don't care if they got 65 writers. Everybody's doing what Vince wants at the end of the day. So Vince is putting that show together. Sure, bro, he's getting input here and input there. At the end of the day, he's sitting behind his desk. He's putting that show together. Bro, are you going to tell me that for 1 second, Vince McMahon thought that was a good show?
No.
And thought that was a compelling show and thought that he didn't need to have a presence on that show? Because, bro, if Vince McMahon thought last night's show was a good enough show that he didn't have to be on or put over, bro, then I'll say it right here in front of everybody. The guy has absolutely lost his marbles. Do you think for a second Vince thought last night's show was a good show?
No, I don't. And let's segue. I want to throw it over because I know the fans are wanting to know. Raw wasn't good enough for you to spend 10, 15 minutes in your opening shoot to talk about. It just wasn't. They want to know, however, and maybe the mastermind and the genius of Vince McMahon is knowing that, you know what, I want more people to watch my interview on Steve Austin, so I'm going to give them such a horrible show that they're going to go out of their way and they're going to rant and rave about what I would say otherwise was a lackluster interview with Steve Austin and Vince. And Vince, I want to ask you this, and guys, I want to encourage you to tweet at hashtag Swerve Live, of course, questions at the end of the show, and of course, get your comments here. But Vince, the dirt sheets are all a buzz about this shoot interview, so to speak, that Stone Cold Steve Austin did with Vince McMahon. Everybody loved it. Coming off the heels of course, Colt Cabana's interview, which was remarkable with CM Punk. Whether you believe a story, part of a story, or none of a story, it was very compelling. Vince McMahon and Steve Austin wasn't that great to me. And I mean, it just wasn't near as meaty as what most people wanted to say it was today. And Vince, to be honest with you, I'm a dirt sheet guy, have been for 11, 12 years now. I read the dirt sheets. I know what the pulse is. I know what the buzz is. And everybody's ranting and raving about Vince McMahon and Steve Austin's sit-down interview after Raw. I know you are one of the only people that kind of feels the same way I did. It really wasn't as good if you get down to the meat and potatoes of what it was.
Bro, there's no story, bro. You know, I'm reading the internet, Chris, last night. I'm reading it this morning, and bro, with all due respect, Chris, you were involved in that world. Oh, I don't have an issue with that. Obviously, you're here with me, and I love you. But, we're going to dissect it. We're going to break it apart. What are you dissecting, bro? It was PR. At the end of the day, it was PR. All Vince McMahon cared about was getting people to the WWE network. That's all he cared about. Austin asked all the right questions. I thought Steve Austin did a phenomenal job because Steve Austin ain't going to be a puppet. Steve Austin's not going to be a company shill. If Vince McMahon would have told Austin, Steve, you got to be the company shill and serve me softballs, Steve Austin wouldn't have done it. That simple, he wouldn't have done it. So I'm sure Steve was allowed to ask what Steve wanted to be allowed to ask, and good for him. But, bro, Vince's answers. I mean, bro, what did the guy reveal? Oh, okay, it was his idea for the Undertaker's streak to end. Oh, whoopee. I'm sorry CM Punk got his termination notice the day of his wedding. I mean, whoopee. He said nothing, bro. And you can tell. Look at Austin. Look at Austin's body language because Austin knew. Because Austin knew that Vince was giving the corporate answers about everything because Vince didn't care about coming clean with the audience. Vince cared about you subscribing to his network. Because you know why, Chris? If Vince cared about the audience, Vince would have went on there and said, I know the show is lackluster. I know we can do better, and it's going to get better. You have my word. Stick with us. There are things we need to work on. There are things we need to fix. This show is going to get better. That's what Vince McMahon should have said if he wanted to be honest and he wanted to tell the truth. But all he wanted, bro, was for people to watch the interview and hopefully subscribe to the network. I know Vince McMahon personally. In that interview, he said absolutely nothing.
I agree with you.
Now, CM Punk. Bro, I love that interview. I have no qualms with that interview. I love that interview. Bro, Chris, I only worked with CM Punk for a very short period of time, bro. It was like a cup of coffee. Chris, I didn't watch CM Punk's whole run. I wasn't watching the WWE back then, so I'm really not familiar with CM Punk other than what I've read and what I've heard. But when I heard this guy's interview, man, bro, I consider myself honest. I consider myself an open book. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I'm never going to lie to you. If people don't like it, they don't like it. This guy, he 10 times, Vince Russo, bro, this guy says what he feels. I believed what he said. I don't doubt him for 1 second. It came across that way. And, bro, I got all the respect in the world. Chris, I'm there when the guys don't like the creative or when the guys are working hurt and the guys are upset and the guys are unhappy. And you know what they do, Chris? They go back in the locker room and they poison all the other wrestlers. Whoever will listen, they start talking negatively about the company. They start burying everybody. And that's how the bad locker room starts. That's how it happens. I've been there. I've witnessed it. CM Punk didn't like what was happening with his character. Wasn't happy that he was continuously working hurt. Walked in Vince McMahon's office, told Triple H to stay in there, spoke his piece, laid it all out for them, said, I'm done, left the money on the table, had no idea what his future holds, left the money on the table, hugged Vince, shook Hunter's hand, and walked out. Bro, as somebody that's been in the business for 23 years, that is absolutely remarkable. And that's what makes this guy so unique because, bro, 99.9% of the wrestlers Any other guy, bro, would have filed their grievances in the locker room. They would have got everybody else riled up. Nobody would have been happy. And then now the WWE has a huge problem on their hands. But rather than do that, I don't like this. This is why I don't like it, and this is why I'm leaving. And he walks into the sunset. I don't know how you respect anybody more than that, Chris.
I mean, there's still two sides to this, and Vince did say that on the interview last night. There is two sides to the story. I think that CM Punk had every right to be upset, had every right to want to leave. I tend to lean maybe a little bit more on Vince's side in a standpoint that you are letting the fans down when you walk out on your contract to a degree. I mean, fans were still expecting to see CM Punk, and I do still see that side of it as well. That being said, this has been pent up in CM Punk for quite some time, as you could tell. So I have no problem with him being disgruntled. Maybe the way that he handled it was wrong. And I think, Vince, the problem that a lot of people still have with CM Punk at this point, or at least one of my issues with the whole situation, is that he's going to end up being rewarded for this at the end of the day. He's going to go sit home for a little bit. He got what he wanted in that lawsuit. He got what he wanted and more. He admitted those were his words. In a couple of years from now, Vince just said it last night, even if it was kind of a PC route that he wanted to take, I'd like to do business with CM Punk again. Vince is smart in the sense that he can let all that stuff go 2 years from now when he wants CM Punk to come back and work at WrestleMania. CM Punk swears that he's not going to. But at the end of the day, I think that's the issue that I have. CM Punk walked out, right or wrong, or you're indifferent to it. He walked out. He'll get rewarded for it, come 2 years from now if he wants it, by headlining WrestleMania, making tons of money, and being a bigger star than he ever was prior to leaving. So I think that's what some fans still have an issue with. But obviously, after hearing his story and Vince and them not coming back and getting into the details and giving their side of the story, playing the sympathy card or any of those things, and I'm not saying necessarily CM Punk was, but that's, in my mind, it's definitely something that CM Punk has won a lot of love for just after that interview. It is hard not to sympathize with the guy when you're talking about the injuries he's been through. But at the end of the day, Vince, he gets to come back and make a ton of money when he ultimately did walk out on everybody.
Chris, I got to tell you this, bro, and with all due respect, unless you're in that position, unless, bro, you have to understand. Let me explain to you, Chris. When you work for Vince, okay, as far as Vince is concerned, nothing else matters, bro. He doesn't care about your family. He doesn't care if you're on the road 325 days out of the year. It's all about the WWE. He does not care about you as an individual and a human being. He may put on a facade like he does. He may, give you the old pat on the back, ha ha, pal. No, bro. He don't care about you. You're making money for him. That's all he cares about. So, bro, he has the tendency to work you to the bone. Bro, after every show, when the show was done, Vince used to turn to me and he always used to ask me, Vince, did I get it all? That meant that he absolutely get everything from me that day where I had nothing left. That's what he would ask me at the end of every night. So, bro, when you're working for a man like that, and at the end of the day, all he cares about is himself and his company, not your feelings, not how you're feeling, not if you need a break, not what you're going through, mentally and being on the road and all that. Unless you've experienced that and really understand the point of misery you could reach, where you can be absolutely miserable. Chris, I walked away from well into six figures because I was that miserable. I'm sure Punk was making 10 times more than I was making. But, bro, unless you've worked for this guy, you just don't understand the mental anxiety of just this nonstop go without there ever being a break. And Chris, he is the red flag for me in this interview. And this is what really raised my eyebrow. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Chris, when these guys tell you, Chris, you were there for the Kurt Angle interview. And Kurt Angle said it. In the VIP interview, when we talked for an hour and a half, Kurt said it. Kurt said with all his injuries and his busted necks, Kurt basically said, I always went back as quickly as I could because I wanted to and I loved the business. It was on me. I had nobody to blame but myself. And Punk kind of really makes the same comment. He basically said, well, I was hurt and I tried to get back as early as I could because I didn't want to lose my spot. Now, Chris, I can tell you firsthand, and this is where I stand by Vince McMahon's side. Being attached to his hip for 5 years, Chris, and working the creative and writing every single show with Vince McMahon, bro, there was never one instance where a guy was penalized because he came back in 6 weeks and Vince wanted him back in 4 weeks. That never happened. Ever happened. For as closely as I saw with Vince, I never saw a guy penalized, lose his spot ever because he was hurt. I never saw that. So in my opinion, bro, that's always the crutch for, like Kurt said, they just want to get back, bro. They're wrestlers. That's what they do. They want to get back. They want to make their money. And they're paranoid that somebody else is going to take their spot. It doesn't come from Vince. It doesn't come from the office. It comes from them. That's how the wrestling business is. But Chris, the one thing that really raised my eyebrow in this interview with Punk and that stood out on my page, bro, to be honest with you, was when Punk made the comment that during one of the injuries, rehab time was supposed to be 6 weeks. But Vince McMahon called him and pushed that up to 2.5 weeks. Now, if that's the truth, that's an issue. That's a major issue. If a doctor is telling you you need 6 months, 6 weeks to rehab an elbow, a knee, whatever it was, and Vince says, I need you back in 2.5 weeks, bro, that's an issue. What I'm saying is I never experienced that. And I never believed that that happened until I heard CM Punk talk about it. So, like, that was the one thing where I said, whoa, if he's being honest here, that's a real issue. Because, bro, if a guy needs six weeks to heal up and that's what a doctor's saying, you need to give that human being 6 weeks to heal up.
No, I agree with you. And watch this, what I do here. A perfect segue is CM Punk says, obviously, Vince McMahon wanted him to come back early. The next guy that you're going to hear from, actually, although I do think the part that Kurt Angle talked about, it was in the VIP interview, so this might not be the perfect segue. However, Kurt Angle said that that wasn't the case with him and Vince McMahon. You know, in fact, Vince requested that Kurt take time off, go to rehab. So that's one side of Vince McMahon, whereas CM Punk is telling him the other, showing that other side of Vince McMahon that, again, you know, there are always two sides to every story. I'm not calling CM Punk a liar, but you just don't know, Vince.
But again, you know what, Chris? And I said this to Kurt as well. When Kurt made that comment, you know, on the video interview, I said this to him as well. I said, Kurt, I'm sure it was a different case for the individual he was dealing with. But Kurt, I mean, I'm sorry, Chris, I also would assume because, bro, I believe both guys. I do believe. I don't think Punk's just saying that. I really don't. And when he said that, I was disappointed in Vince because I don't think Punk would just say that. But I think, Chris, what it also comes down to is, bro, who else is hurt at that time? How is Madison Square Garden sold out and one of the other top stars is on the shelf? So I think a lot of it, if it's true, again, you don't know, you'd have to get Vince's response. But if that's true, I think it's situational. What was the situation at the WWE at the time? Were a number of guys hurt? Did he really need Punk because they were at the Garden and Punk was advertised? Whatever the case may be, but I believe both guys told the truth. And that, like I said, that was the one thing where if Punk is being honest, and I do believe he is, Vince is wrong. I mean, in that case, he's wrong. And I can say, Chris, as a writer, bro, here's the problem, Chris. I've said this a couple of times, right? Chris, I found out like years after I left the WWE, right? And my friend Terry Taylor was still working there. Terry told me that I had a little bit of heat with The Undertaker. And bro, it broke my heart because, Mark is the nicest guy in the freaking world. I always had the utmost respect for him. Just, bro, a pro's pro, bro. And Terry made the comment to me that, Mark had basically told him that he had a little bit of heat with me because I made him work or asked him to work hurt. Now, Chris, what happens in those situations is if you think a talent is hurt, if they're selling a little bit, bro, by the way they're walking or they're laying on the floor, when it's the back, they're usually laid out on the floor. When you think a talent is hurt, bro, you ask that talent, are you okay? Is everything all right? Can you go tonight? Bro, 100% of the time, they'll tell you they can go because that's who they are. They're professional wrestlers. They work hard. So, bro, I am sure Taker worked many matches hurt without my knowledge because these guys don't tell you, bro. They don't tell the writer. They don't tell management. They no sell, and they go in the ring and work hurt. And they'll admit that, bro. They'll admit that all day long. Punk admitted it. Kurt Angle in the long video, he admits it. And bro, I got to be honest with you. I think that is ridiculous because at the end of the day, first of all, in my experience, you're not going to get penalized if you're legitimately hurt. You're not going to get penalized. You're going to come back to the same spot. JR used to tell me, if JR used to say, okay, Take is hurt. Take is going to be back in 4 weeks. And I'd say, okay, Jim, just tell me when Take is coming back. We'll write him in. That's it. Whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, we'll write him in whenever he comes back. For these guys to go in the ring hurt. And like I said, bro, I believe that, somebody's going to take our spot. Bro, that's old school 1960. That's a crutch. It doesn't exist. I never saw a guy lose his spot because he was hurt. But these guys, because they're wrestlers and because that's what they do and they want to get in that ring every night, what they don't understand is when they go in that ring hurt and work hurt again and work hurt again, bro, all they're doing is shaving years off their career. I mean, that's all they're doing. If they don't miss time now, they're going to miss time on the back end because by that time, their bodies are going to be so spent and so beat up and so broken. Bro, those guys may be retiring 2 or 3 years early because they didn't take the proper time when they got injured in a wrestling ring. But none of these guys, bro, call it testosterone, call it ego, call it whatever you want. But these guys don't think about that. These guys don't think about if I come back in 3 weeks when I'm supposed to be out for 5 weeks, guess what? That's going to affect me down the road. And if I keep doing it, it's going to affect me more and more and more. Bro, this is a huge problem in professional wrestling. And really, I mean, Chris, unless you've seen it, because I saw it a million times, unless you've seen it and you lived it, you don't realize, the capacity of this issue. Bro, when you hear Punk talk, bro, the guy's body was broken. Absolutely broken. And when you watch him work, when I go back on YouTube and I watch his matches, the guy went out there every night and killed himself. So it's not a surprise his body was broken. But when they keep getting back in there and back in there and back in there, and they don't take the proper time, like I said, bro, they're shaving years off the end. And I don't even want to get into what they're taking to fight off the pain so they can go out there and perform. That's how it all starts, bro. It's a huge domino effect. It's a huge problem in the wrestling business. And for as long as I've been in it, I've always seen it.
Well, and I think that you're right, and I think it's going to be something where they're going to end up having to really restructure from a standpoint of retraining the wrestlers to make them understand that they can take the time off and it's not going to end up penalizing them, because that's something that, Kurt Angle has mentioned, CM Punk mentioned. That's the paranoia. That's what they've been taught. That's what they've been taught from the beginning. That's their mentality, that it's that dog-eat-dog world, and if you take the time off, you're gonna end up losing something as a result of it. And it's going to start with the top, Vince. I mean, Vince McMahon and them are going to end up having to retrain wrestlers to not believe that. And obviously, our guest tonight knows a lot about that from a standpoint of dealing with injuries and having that paranoia, that subconscious paranoia, that if he worked or if he left and didn't work and wasn't on TV every single week, that he was going to lose his spot from a political game of some kind, or the fans simply were going to forget about him. And so it's something that's been taught to the wrestlers, and everyone says it from the time they enter the business, and it's never going to change until somebody that they trust, in a guy like Vince McMahon that's obviously employing them, and a number of other wrestlers, the veterans, tell them that that's not the case.
Well, Chris, we could talk about this all night, but I'm going to end it here. But I will say this, bro. I don't believe the Vince McMahons of the world want that to change.
Yeah.
I believe they want that to be the psyche of the wrestler, so the wrestler comes back as soon as they can so they can start making money again. Bro, they're never going to lose their spot. I can tell you that. But the quicker they come back, because they have this mentality that we're going to lose our spot if I don't, guess what, bro? The quicker Vince McMahon makes money. So I don't believe that Vince McMahon is in any hurry to re-educate the wrestlers, and I'd be shocked to see that happen. But Chris, I got to ask you, and then we're going to go to Kurt. But I said at the top of the show, I did Chael Sonnen's show today, and I listened to Kurt Cabana. And these guys are cool, calm, and collected radio hosts. Have I been cool, calm, and collected this far, you think?
Yeah. Hey, I think you've been as CCC as you could possibly be, Vince. I don't think it's in you, and I tell you this much: I know that the majority of our fans, majority of your fans, that's not. They wouldn't have it any other way, man. They think you're sick. They think something's wrong with you if you're not doing all this and going crazy and bro. And the more bros you throw out there, the more the passion. They call it passion. I couldn't agree anymore. Vince Russo wouldn't be Vince Russo if he didn't have it. So,
well, bro, I can't help my passion. And bro, I always say this, bro. I always say this. I believe that, I really do believe, bro, people that do what I do in the wrestling business, I believe, and I'll always believe this, and you can criticize me for it. I always believe, bro, I'm a step above them all, strictly on passion. Strictly on passion, period, end of the day. People writing wrestling shows today do not have the passion that Vince Russo had and still had. Chris, I want to say, that rant was brought to you by myfaceonafigure.com. Listen, man, Christmas is coming up. I've told you about this company a million times. They make action figures of you. All you have to do is send them a photo of your face. Here's the graphics Chris just put up nice. You tell them what you want to be. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a cop. I want to be a soldier. I want to be a wrestler. They'll put you up in that gimmick. Then you choose the packaging. You design your own packaging. Next thing you know, in the mail, you're getting a figure of yourself. Here, I got figures all over the place. Here's Mac. Fat Mac from It's Sunny. If I could have a figure of myself when I was a kid, I would have had 100 of them. I would have got myself as a superhero or wrestler, G.I. Joe, whatever the case may be. But this is the perfect Christmas gift, unique. You're not going to find this anywhere else. I want to say this, Chris, and again, we got to get to Kurt, and I know we have to get to Kurt. I just want to say this. You're about now to hear from Kurt the decision process of whether he should go back to TNA or go back to WWF. Kurt was at the point of making a decision. There were pros and cons of each place. I threw out my pros and cons of each place. We compared Vince McMahon and we compared, Dixie Carter. We talked about the benefits of TNA, the benefits of the WWE. I had to ask Kurt, do you have heat with Triple H? I'm reading this all over the place. Kurt, is that a stumbling block? I don't know. I'm reading it. That's why I'm asking you. So this is what this interview is about. When we come back, Kurt texted me today and said, even though it's unofficial, Vince, this is my decision. I got no problem with you putting it out there and making the announcement on your show. So you're going to see the thought process first. Then we're going to come back and get the decision. And when we come back and get the decision, and I talk to you about that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the VIP interview and the things that were discussed there. And as I said at the top of the show, you can become a VIP member for $3.95 a month for life. That's $1 a week. You get these VIP shoot interviews. They're usually an hour and a half long. You get one every single week for less than $1 a month. So we will be back with Kurt Angle right after this. Do you need a personal trainer? Who doesn't? Do you need a personal trainer? Who doesn't? The problem is half of them don't know what they're talking about, and the other half cost a fortune. But I stumbled across something that amazed me. The program called Muscle Now teaches exactly how to eat and exercise for natural muscle gains, all without worthless supplements or drugs. And best of all, the author of the program becomes your lifetime email personal trainer. This just floored me. I have no idea how he has done this since 1997. He must just never sleep. There are hundreds of amazing testimonials at musclenow.com, and he offers a 90-day full money back guarantee. Visit musclenow.com now to begin building muscle naturally and use the coupon code New Year Muscle for a special holiday discount. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Swerve. I just conducted an hour and a half interview with this individual. We discussed everything. Listen, if you really want to know Kurt Angle, everything about Kurt Angle, no holes barred. I hate to use that term. I feel like I'm a 1970s promoter. But, Kurt coming as clean as he possibly can, bearing his soul, just two friends talking. I suggest that you try the VIP because this interview alone is one you won't want to miss if you're a wrestling fan. But I saved something very special for the Swerve, something I didn't talk about in the VIP section that we're going to talk about now. And Mr. Angle, are you still with me?
I'm with you, Vince.
Hey, Kurt, I got to ask you this. I touched upon this earlier. Like, bro, like I worked with you for almost a decade. I never saw you get mad, bro. Never saw you get mad. And here's the funny thing, Kurt. I don't know if you remember this, but there was an incident where it was you, Sting, and myself. Now, keep in mind, all three of us are Christian men, and we proudly say that. And I
Right.
remember there was an instance in TNA, bro, and I know you remember this, and I've never talked about it. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. But I remember you and Sting had a match coming up. And I remember that you and Sting had been going over this match by telephone all week long, back and forth, back and forth. Two of the biggest, if not the biggest stars in the business, Sting and Kurt Angle, discussing this match all week long. We finally get to the television, right? And, you guys pitch me this match, and I hear what you guys are talking about. Whatever you had is absolutely great. At the same time, Hogan is working with the company, okay? And Hogan wants to chime in on what Sting and Kurt Angle are going to do in this match that they've been talking about for the whole week. So here was the first thing that happened that, hey, I'm as Christian as they come, freaking pissed me off. Sting's ready. Kurt's ready. They got their match. It's during the day. Hulk Hogan is nowhere to be found. Now, Kurt and Sting can't go over their match. They can't talk about their match until they get the blessing from Mr. Hogan himself. Hogan's not around. Now, I'm getting pissed off because I'm feeling that Sting and Kurt are being totally disrespected by Hogan, and that's pissing me off. It has nothing to do with Hulk Hogan. It has to do with my friends Sting and Kurt being disrespected. Finally, Hogan shows up, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it was. He comes and sits down in the room. Kurt and Sting, as politely as they can, lay out the match that they've been discussing all week. Match sounds great to me. These guys are on the same page. And Hogan, more or less, after a week of these guys going through their match, Hogan more or less pulls the old, that doesn't work for me, brother. Okay? I'm so pissed off at this point because of the disrespect to Sting and Kurt. I feel the disrespect. I'm so pissed off at this point that I literally got to get up and walk out of the meeting because I was about to flip my lid. And there's Kurt and there's Sting, my two Christian brothers, sitting there as cool, calm, and collective as they can possibly be. Do you remember that day?
Yeah.
How did you not blow your lid? Between you and Sting, I'm pulling my hair out. I'm not in the match, and I'm watching you guys just okay. Kurt.
Oh my gosh. You know what, Vince? When it comes down to it, I don't have a lot to say about that day because I love Terry. I love Hulk, and I think that he was trying to help, but at the same time, I think that Sting and I know what we want. I know where we want to go. I think that Sting and I are going to go out there and put on the 5-star match that everybody expects us to. And I don't really think that Hogan needed to say anything, but whether he did for whatever reason, I know that the company did put him in charge. So I can't blame him for being in that position. But at the same time, I think if I were Hulk Hogan, I would say, what do you guys want to do? But he didn't do that day. And for whatever reason, I don't know. But I love Hogan. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. I do remember that day, Vince. And
and Kurt, you know what? I don't have a bad thing to say about him either. I really don't. Like I said, bro, the thing that pissed me off that day was I was watching Sting and Kurt, like just two guys that, if you know these guys, you love these guys. These guys aren't wrestlers. They're not. And just seeing you guys waiting around all day, that to me was so disrespectful. So I didn't have a good attitude going into this meeting. Right. But I mean, bro, like the thing about you that just is so fascinating for me is, bro, you can twist anybody you want in a pretzel. You know, the ankle locks are a shoot, bro. You can maim people if you choose to, bro. I've never even seen you get hot.
No, I don't want to get hot. I've been hot a few times and wanted to do some serious damage, but my Christian background won't allow me to. Whether or not they were done intentionally or not, that's not the kind of person I am, and I'm a professional, and I want to do it the right way. But I do remember that day, and it was kind of crazy, and especially with a guy like Sting. His knowledge and what he's been able to do for the business. I would throw it all on Sting and say, hey, whatever you want to do, Sting, he's that good. So it was a crazy day, and I can't do anything but laugh right now.
Okay. Anyway, Kurt, I want to go to the matter at hand. I want to go to, you told me that you feel Tuesday you're going to be signing a contract. And again, the contract can be with anybody. I would have to think it's with either TNA or WWE. Kurt, I want to walk through this process, not knowing the end result, but I want to be Kurt Angle, and I want to walk through this process. Obviously, you've worked for both companies. Obviously, you worked for Vince. Obviously, you worked for Dixie. If I'm Kurt Angle and now I'm a free agent, before I sign with either company, right? What is it that Kurt Angle is looking for? What, bro, you're like a free agent, that can sign with any major league team you want. What is it first and foremost that Kurt is looking for that's going to lean him towards one company or another? At this point in your career, having achieved everything you have, what is it you're looking for in a wrestling company?
Most importantly is the right interest. At this point in my career, I can't really do a full-time schedule. I need to look at how they want to take care of me, what they want to do with me, what's important to them should be important to me, and that everything that I do has meaning. But first and most important is having that invested interest. Secondly is, making sure that I keep my life straight and that I spend time with my family. Thirdly is, is basically the financial situation. It's not that I'm in dire need of money. Thank God I've made a lot of money in this business, but at the same time, I think the amount of money speaks volumes on what they want to do with you and how they want to utilize you. So is the money important from a financial standpoint? No. Is it important from knowing that you're important to that company? Yes. So I really have to think of those three things and make sure that they're the best possible suit for me.
Kurt, I want to ask you this. Again, bro, having worked a good amount of time for both companies, and I have too. I've worked for both bosses. I've worked for Dixie Carter and I've worked for Vince McMahon. There's two distinct differences in the two, and I'll put it to you this way. And Kurt, these words are coming from me, not from you. I want to strip you of all in any heat.
I'm stripped.
Okay, now. Let's take Dixie Carter, for instance. And Kurt, you alluded to this in the VIP interview, and if people want to hear it, they can go listen to it. But from a business standpoint, okay, I think, my opinion, Dixie's biggest weakness is and has been, in my opinion, for the last 10 years, not being able to make a decision. So what Dixie does is she brings in other people to make decisions for her. And we can go up and down the list. I mean, it started with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff got the heave ho. Then Bruce Pritchard came in. Then you had the situation with Eric and Hulk Hogan. Now you got John Gabork. A lot of this is due to the fact that Dixie just can't make decisions and doesn't like to make decisions, and that's fine. We're not all great at everything. But the problem is, with every change that Dixie Carter makes, that new person comes in with a whole new way of wanting to do things. So now all of a sudden there's the change in the direction, and this guy is going to get pushed and this guy isn't going to get pushed. And that has a lot to do with TNA kind of being all over the place, since Jeff Jarrett, lost his power. Like I said, it was under Jeff. It was under Eric. Hulk was involved. It was under Bruce. Now it's under Gaborik. So it always shifts all over the place with all these changes. Do you think that's a fair assessment, Kurt?
I think that Dixie does make decisions, but I think also, I think that she feels it's taking her a while to become what I would say an expert of the business. Dixie has been in entertainment for a long, long time, but not the pro wrestling business. I think that the reason she doesn't want to make decisions is because she doesn't ultimately know the business as well as the other people that she brings in. I think Dixie has a big heart. I think it's perhaps too big. The way she has treated me has been nothing short of incredible. She's made some mistakes with some things that she's done, with the people that she's hired and the direction they've wanted to go. It's been definitely a learning experience for her. I don't know, Vince. I mean, you made a lot of good points. But
Kurt, here's what I was going to say. That's Dixie from a business point of view.
Yeah.
You go to Vince at a business point of view. Okay. Vince is driving the car. You know what direction it's going in. You know what it's going to do. And there's a good possibility if you listen to Vince and become a part of that machine, he's going to make you a lot of money. When it comes to wrestling, nobody knows more than him. Some people say he's getting a little older. Vince is going to be 70 in August. He may be a little out of touch, and that may be so, but nobody's going to know wrestling the way Vince McMahon knows wrestling. So as far as business, you've got those two completely different business owners. But now it comes to the personal. And now it comes to the Dixie Carter versus the Vince McMahon. And Kurt, I'll mirror everything you just said. Dixie has a tremendous heart. I really believe Dixie cares about you. Dixie cares about your family. If you get hurt, I believe, Dixie is worried about your well-being. You've got an addiction problem, whatever the case, Dixie is a people person. No question about it. That's why I've always admired her. Vince, on the other hand, if you're making him money, he's a people person. It's quite that simple. The second you stop making Vince money, you're dead. You don't exist. Between the Ultimate Warrior and them burying CM Punk on television, telling everybody he's a quitter, to never talking to Vince Russo again, whatever the situation is. So I don't consider Vince a people person the way I do Dixie. So I guess my question is, Kurt, you've got Dixie, who's a wonderful personal person, still has a lot to learn about the wrestling business. You got Vince, on the other hand. Nobody's going to know the wrestling business more than him, but perhaps he cares about you when you're making him money. At this point in your life, Kurt, does that come into play? Being in the business for so long, you're at the prime of your career now, having gone through it all, is it more important to get treated as a human being than it really is to just get plugged into a machine where you know you're going to make a lot of money, but it's, you're going to have to work to earn that money?
Well, yeah, it is important. You're right. Dixie is more like has the motherly love. The thing is, with Vince, he treated me like I was a kind of a son, and whether he cared about me or not, and I could be completely off with this, but Vince took care of me. He took care of me financially. He checked on me every year. I was the first one he called every New Year's Eve, 12 midnight. He was always there for me. I never had a problem with him. I can't say that about other people. I listened to the Punk interview, and I don't know who's telling the truth and who's not, and how much Punk went over the top or whether he didn't, whether he was completely telling the truth. I don't know, but I didn't have that kind of relationship with Vince that Punk did, and man, that's tough because you listen to that interview and you can't stop listening to it. Punk had a lot of things to say that really, I think, opened everybody's eyes and ears. But Dixie is not Vince, and I don't think she ever will be Vince. From a wrestling standpoint, Vince has been in there his whole entire life, and he knows the business like nobody else. I don't think anybody could be like Vince. Nobody that Vince is grooming right now could be like Vince. But I think that you make some points on both sides. Of course, Vince is going to treat you better if you're making him money and he's making you money. I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. I know that. But I've always had a good experience with both of them, and that's a problem. It's not a problem I'm having, but that's the confusion I get when I hear about other people. It's tough, but Dixie has always treated me good. I think that sometimes she has put people in charge that didn't really treat me that well. I don't think it was her fault, but she is the boss. So I did lay a lot of responsibility on her. With Vince, yeah, you have to be a workhorse to be in the WWE. You have to work your butt off. You want to stay on top, you better keep working. But Vince didn't put me in that situation. I put myself in that situation. So, with me, Vince, I have to take a lot of the blame. One, for what I did in WWE and got myself into a situation and didn't want to take time off. And with Dixie, not caring about the business when I should have for those 2 or 3 years, not speaking up consistently and confronting the people that were in charge and saying, what the F? Why am I not? Kurt Angle, why am I not the man on the show? What are you doing? Why would you do that? I'm going to deliver every single time. And I heard Punk talk about how he stole the show every time. Well, nobody has stolen the show more times than me in the short period of time I've wrestled. And I don't expect, I would expect that whatever company I'm with, they're going to utilize me the right way and make me the man, if not one of the top guys, and have that respect for me because I've earned it.
Hey, Kurt, I got to ask you this question, and it's going to be a little bit of a tough question, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Kurt. But again, these are two friends talking. Kurt, you used the analogy that I felt like a son to Vince. And you know what, Kurt? I've used that analogy too. There was a point when, I felt like a son to Vince. And Kurt, here's the thing. The closer and closer I got to Vince, the more and more I found myself, I'll be honest with you, bro, really loving the guy. When you get beneath the bravado and that facade and you tear all that away, that's the guy I really started to love the guy. And as I started growing more and more fond of Vince and his family, Shane was around at the time, Kurt, I would constantly ask myself the question, honestly, does this guy care about me, or am I just kind of the cash cow right now that's making him a lot of money? And Kurt, I was never able to answer that question. And it always bothered me. until in one of our final conversations, when I was being torn away from my family and I wasn't being spending any money any time at home, and I basically needed a break. And Vince turned around to me and said, Vince, I don't see what the problem is. You make enough money now, you should be able to hire a nanny to take care of your kids. That was my answer right there, bro. I got it. Okay. He doesn't care about me. I'm making him money. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about my family. He does care. At that point, there was no turning back for Vince Russo. An Italian guy, you're going to tell him something like that about his family, I'll leave $2 billion on the table. I can't accept that and look my kids in the face. So I guess my question to you, Kurt, is, while you're making him money and while you're on top and while you're having the best match at every WrestleMania, do you think part of the way Vince is treating you, the calls on New Year's Eve, is part of that a work? I mean, is he working you, making you believe that because you are the cash cow now? Or does the guy genuinely care about you? That's where I always have a problem with Vince. Like, again, it's getting back to the CM Punk interview. This guy, CM Punk, his body was in a million pieces. He couldn't go anymore. He was just broken. He gets his release from the WWE. He tells Vince that he's done. 2 weeks later on TV, they're calling, CM Punk a quitter, and he took his ball and he went home. So, I always ask myself the question, does Vince really care about the guys that work for him? Or is it just a work while they're making him money? I don't know, Kurt. I mean, maybe you can't answer that question, but I would just love to know your thoughts on it.
I know this. There's nobody like Vince McMahon. He eats, sleeps, and breathes wrestling. I know you know that, Vince, because I know that you're writing every single day. I know that Vince would go on vacations and you had to go with him to write. But I think that Vince has a high standard for what he does. And I think that when you are one of the top guys, or if you're the top writer in the business, you have to have the same passion as Vince, which is literally impossible. I mean, if you want to have a life, it's very difficult. That's how much Vince McMahon gets himself involved in wrestling. I remember a time where I was having trouble sleeping, and I couldn't sleep at night, and it was going on for weeks. And I talked to Vince, and he said, "Listen, F sleep. If you don't sleep tonight, you'll sleep tomorrow. If you don't sleep tomorrow, you'll sleep the next day." And I'm looking at the guy and I'm thinking, gosh, here's a guy that probably only gets 1 or 2 hours sleep a day because he's always working. And I think that to a certain degree, he expects that from the others. Mm-hmm. And there's just no way that anybody can keep up with Vince McMahon. I believe that he's always going to work in the business. He's always going to work 23 hours a day until the day he dies. I believe that's what's going to keep him alive, because he has more of a passion for it than anybody I know. And I don't know anybody that can have that kind of passion. I didn't even have that kind of passion for amateur wrestling, winning the gold medal in the Olympics. That's how much he gets himself involved. And I just don't know how the guy keeps on ticking.
Yeah. Now, Kurt, I got to ask you this question. Again, Kurt, I'm a responsible journalist now. I'm not writing the shows anymore. I'm like Oprah now, Kurt. So when there's the elephant in the room, I got to ask you the question, Kurt. So you call me Oprah if you like, but I got to ask you the tough questions. Otherwise, people are going to poo-poo Vince Russo as an interviewer. But, Kurt, everything I'm reading, about the possibility of you going to WWE, everything I'm reading and what people are reporting is that Triple H is being a roadblock. And Kurt, I've said all along, here's the problem with the wrestling business in general. Here's the problem, Kurt. When you're on the outside and you have talent, okay, it's very difficult to get back on the inside because everybody that's looking to protect their spot is trying to keep you on the outside. So no matter how good you are, they're not saying, oh, let's, the head writer of Raw is not saying, let's bring in Vince Russo to join the creative team so we can make the product better. The head writer of WWE TV is burying Russo. He's old, he's rusty. He did the David Arquette thing, the whole gimmick, whatever they could say to keep him out. Now, Kurt, you're one of the best wrestlers in the world. You had a personal relationship with Vince McMahon for a very long time. Vince thought very highly of you. Number one, is there any truth to Triple H being a roadblock here? And number two, could it pertain to the things that I'm talking about, or is there something that I don't know about?
I thought about it, but I've never had a problem with Triple H. When I was there, he treated me well. We did business. We did it the right way. I've seen and heard rumors about that, but no. When I've talked to WWE, Vince and I buried the hatchet from the years ago, and we don't have a problem with each other. We're on good terms, and I haven't heard anything about Hunter or Triple H saying or doing anything to block me. So even though I don't know for sure, from my experiences talking to WWE, I don't think it's a problem. I think that a lot of it is rumor, but I don't know for sure. I wouldn't know. There's no way to possibly know unless he went and told me himself. I've read things, but I can't believe what I read. Nobody can believe what they read because as well as I do, most of that stuff is bullcrap. So I've heard this and that about they offer me this, but full time and that. Right now, from my experiences with WWE, I don't see Triple H being a problem. He's been nothing but a good friend to me, and I don't have a problem with the WWE or Vince or Triple H at all. If anything, the good thing about all of this past year is Vince and I were able to be on speaking terms again, and we haven't been for 8 years. So I feel good about that. And as long as I have that with Vince, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I agree with you, bro. I think that's I don't have that with Vince, Kurt, and I don't know why. I try to reach out to the guy. Like you, bro, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, I try to reach out to the guy. I don't know what I did to who. I honestly don't. But it bothers me that I don't have a relationship with him. I mean, it really does. But, it is what it is. I can't say I haven't tried. But, Kurt, as you narrow this decision down, now, do you also look at life within one of these companies once your wrestling days are over? Does Kurt want to be a trainer? Does Kurt want to be an agent? Does Kurt look at an opportunity here with either company as his days in the ring, wind down?
Mm-hmm. Well, my days are winding down. There's no doubt about it. I'm getting ready to retire. It's no secret. I probably won't go longer than a year or two. This is it. But I just, have I thought about it? Yeah. I'm so good at what I do. I'd hate to waste it on just keeping my mouth shut the rest of my life and telling wrestling stories. I have a lot to offer. So whether it be in WWE or TNA, I think I will have a future in being an agent or coaching, teaching. I'm good at it. I'm actually better at the coaching and teaching than I am actual wrestling. But at the same time, I'm actually better at coaching and teaching amateur wrestling than I was as an Olympic gold medalist. So I'm kind of torn in between. What am I going to do now? Am I going to go back to my roots, or am I going to stick with pro wrestling? Because I sure as hell can't do them both. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten offers for both sides. So I have to decide which direction I'm going to go. And when I do it, I'm going to go full tilt.
Well, Kurt, I look forward to the decision this Tuesday. I'm going to stay in touch with you during the day and find out which way you decide to go. I'll let the people know here on Pyro and Ballyhoo. But, Kurt, I want to, again, just thank you for taking this time out tonight and spending it with me. Listen, bro, I've been doing this now since May. I think I can officially say, even though the Disco Inferno likes to take credit for it, I think I can now officially say that Kurt Angle has put my show on the map. Nobody can do it like Kurt Angle, and I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate our friendship. And Kurt, if we don't stay in touch as time progresses, you're going to break my heart.
I promise we'll stay in touch, Vince. We always will, buddy.
All right, Kurt. Well, listen, good luck with everything, and I look forward to your decision on Tuesday.
All right, Vinny. Take care, man.
All right, man. Good night.
All right.
The Swerve is brought to you by MyFaceOnAFigure.com, where you can literally become your own action figure. Look, if you're a collector of wrestling figures, this is a no-brainer. Bring yourself to life in the wrestling world and go up against some of the biggest names in the business. And of course, Christmas is coming up. Surprise your friend or loved ones with their very own figure from MyFaceOnAFigure.com. That's MyFaceOnAFigure.com. Tell them Vince Russo sent you.
Hey, Vince, turn your mic on, buddy.
Hey, listen, Chris, don't be a wise guy. All right, I knew the mic was off. I was just testing you to see if you were on the ball.
Okay. Continue.
Want to apologize?
Nobody heard a word you said right there.
Well, anyway, what I said was, it is literally now 1:23 on the East Coast. Chris, we've kept people up till 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast, and I'm kind of proud of that. I think it was worth it. I think, if you stayed up and heard Kurt's interview, I think it was worth it. I think we got into, the thought process, the decision making of where he was going to, bring his career next. Like I said, in the VIP video shoot portion of the interview, where we get into deep details, man. I mean, really, we go places I don't think Kurt has ever really gone before. You could experience that. $3.95 a month for life. Code word, Swerve Live. But that interview took place on Sunday. Kurt told me that he planned on making a decision on Tuesday. So I texted Kurt this morning and I said, well, Kurt, is the jury out yet? And Kurt basically tweeted me back today and he said, Vince, he goes, it's still unofficial. He said, but I have no problem telling you, or you announcing, or you saying on your show that I'm going to go back to work for TNA. Chris, what do you think about that decision?
I think it's good. I don't think necessarily that it's going to surprise a lot of people. I think at this point, a lot of people kind of expected him to go back to TNA just based off of what they've read. But Vince, and you didn't get into it in this interview necessarily, and I don't know if Kurt's all right to say it, but I mean, I think people would be surprised how close it did come to WWE as well. I mean, they had talked together, and I think a lot of people just kind of have heard the rumors about Triple H, and Kurt addressed it in the interview just a few minutes ago about the heat, the assumed heat with Triple H, and maybe him stifling the return of Kurt Angle to WWE. And as far as Kurt knows, and I believe he's telling the truth, he doesn't necessarily believe that. And so, I think the thing people would be surprised is not so much that his decisions to go back to TNA, but that there was apparently an offer on the table potentially, or they were a lot closer to Kurt Angle maybe going back to WWE than a lot of people thought.
Well, Chris, I think a couple of things. First of all, first and foremost, I think the most important thing is, and Kurt said it in that interview, after 8 years, he now has a speaking relationship with Vince McMahon again, which is great. And I could tell that that was very important to Kurt. And if nothing else, that came out of it. So that's great. Personally, Chris, I feel that TNA is the better fit. I have my concerns, and I'll tell you why, but I think TNA is the better fit. Listen, I worked with Kurt. I know how special Kurt Angle is. I know when Kurt Angle tells you, yeah, I can only work a part-time schedule now, this, that, and the other thing. You know what, bro? Part-time, full-time, a third of the time, Kurt Angle is going to give you the best match of the night. Period. End of story. The guy's a machine. The guy's a cyborg. He still is capable of giving you the best show of the night because you know why? He's a very proudful person. I'm not sure at the WWE he would have had that opportunity to receive the time that he deserved. I don't necessarily know, again, in that machine, if they would have given Kurt Angle the time that he deserved. Now, at TNA, Kurt Angle's the star. Kurt Angle is the main event. Kurt Angle is still going to give you the best match of the night. Now, listen, they can groom the other guys behind them. That's all fine. They have to do that. Continue to groom Bobby Roode. Continue to work with Bobby Lashley a little bit more. I hope his best days aren't behind him yet. But, Kurt Angle can still be the guy at TNA, and he can still deliver. This is my concern, and I'm going to say it publicly, bro. I don't have all the confidence in the world of the TNA creative team that was in place when I stopped my consulting relationship with them. I just don't. John Gaborik, listen, bro, great guy. Heck of a guy. He's the kind of guy that, you want to go out and party with. At the end of the day, creative is not his forte. He may want to be in charge of creative, and that's okay. But he's a television producer. That's what he does best. That's what he did at TNA. He knows how to make vignettes. He knows how to get characters over through vignettes. He knows how to produce television. Creative is a whole different animal. Then you got your writers there. The two writers there were Dave Lagana and Matt Conway. Two very young, very smart, very hardworking, very intelligent writers, but they tend to kind of want to stay back in the weeds. You know what I'm saying? They seem to not want to, take charge, take the company by the Spaldings, be out there, be the guy, be the head of creative. I think they're a little bit more concerned with, playing it safe. Let's stay back in the weeds. Let's not ruffle any feathers, and let's just secure our paycheck. I don't believe you can be that way as a writer in professional wrestling, bro. You have to take chances. You've got to take Spaldings in hand. Some stuff is going to be phenomenal. Some stuff they're going to hang you for, but you have to take charge. So my biggest concern with TNA with Kurt going there is there's not that creative strength. Now, bro, who knows? They may go into Destination America with a whole new creative team. I mean, who knows? I have no idea. Maybe they put a wrestler on the creative team. I don't know if that dichotomy is going to change. But what I can tell you is the dichotomy that was there that I worked with, I just don't have all the confidence in the world in them. And at this point in Kurt's career, okay, he needs to get everything he possibly can out of the creative team. If Kurt Angle becomes just another wrestler on the roster, then TNA is totally wasting their money. And Kurt Angle is much, much too good and much too special to be another name on the roster. And you know what? You could talk about his age. I'm not sure if Kurt's 44 now or whatever Kurt is. It doesn't matter with this guy. This guy could be 60 years old, and he's still going to make sure he has the best match of the night, and he will. So, that's my only concern with him over at TNA. But, bro, back his decision 100%. Obviously, at the end of the day, he felt it was the best thing for him. He talked to the WWE. He went over there, so all the luck in the world. Chris, I just want you to tell him from their point. And, I know it's 1:30 on the East Coast. And you know what, Chris? Bottom line, they're loving every minute of this. But Chris, you were the guy, kind of sitting there, watching the VIP, the hour and a half interview unfold between myself and Kurt Angle. And, Chris, having a ringside seat, can you kind of just, give them a little taste of the content that was in that hour and a half? Bro, you need to put your mic on, Chris. Hey, Chris, can you put your mic on, please? It's 1:30 in the morning. People are waiting.
Yeah,
jeez.
I think if you're a wrestling fan, if you enjoyed that, you're gonna enjoy the VIP interview that much more. That was more about his decision. The VIP interview was compelling, just as much, if not more, than what you just witnessed. And I look at it, and Vince and I talk 15 times a day. We talk before he goes into these interviews. We talk about after the interviews, whether they were good, whether they're bad, whether they're going to be meaty enough. You've got to understand, Vince and I clash about this all the time, at times, not all the time. But I was a dirt sheet guy. I'm a fan. I'm a hardcore, passionate, loyal fan, and I have been around the dirt sheets for so long. And of course, that's our audience right now, primarily with Pyron Ballyhoo and the brand. So I look at it with those eyes. Vince doesn't. Vince looks at it from, number one, he's been in the business. Number two, he knows these guys. He's worked with these guys. And so I try to steer him as much as I can to be as compelling as possible for the fans, for our demographic, and that's the hardcore internet fans. And Kurt Angle was every bit of that and more. I mean, knowing he was about to, most likely, if he hasn't yet, he's going to, as he announced, sign with TNA, he was still candid. And in the VIP interview, it was, drug addiction, the painkillers. He was so open and honest to the point that he was nervous a little bit about how it was going to be portrayed and perceived after the fact, and how the dirt sheets and media will run with a particular headline and spin it the way they want to spin it. He was self-conscious about that after the fact, but he told us to run with it because, Vince, I think you said in your column today, putting it over, it was therapeutic for him. He hadn't talked to this degree in this much depth about his personal demons. He's kept that to himself and only talked about it publicly when he had to, as a PR deal, because something just happened. He was arrested, whatever it might be. He's really not opened up to the degree, especially, at least not anywhere that I've seen, that he did with you. And the VIP area, I believe, will get, fans will allow fans to see a different side of Kurt Angle than they've ever witnessed before.
Yeah, and I got to say this, and I do want to say this. Kurt is my friend, so my impulse is to protect Kurt. So bro, we just went with this interview, and depending on his answer, I asked the next question, and we went, and we went, and we went. And I got to tell you, man, when we were done with this interview, and Chris, you know this, as his friend, I was a little uneasy because, my impulse is to protect him. Kurt Angle is my friend. I want to protect him to the point, Chris, that I sent him the video. I said, bro, here it is. This is the video, Kurt. I want you to look at it. I will feel much more comfortable if you give it a second look and you give it your blessing. I said, listen, anything you want me to take out, anything you want me to edit out, I'll gladly take out of it. I need you to look at it. And he did just that. He looked at it again in detail, and he texted me, and he goes, Vince, I'm fine with this. Go for this. He goes, when I talk about that part of my life, he goes, it makes me realize how far I've come. He said, so I want it out there. I want you to go forward with this. And again, Chris, it's like you said, bro, if any dirt sheet out there, wants to make a sensational headline to get people to, to view it, or to take a shot at Kurt, or to take a shot at Vince Russo, bro, whatever, if that happens, it's pathetic, because this was a man just bearing his soul, just putting it all out there, saying everything that he possibly could say to share with others, his struggles and how he overcame it all. Just putting it out there, man, being as raw and honest as he possibly can. And, again, if somebody wants to, take a shot at Kurt Angle, I mean, come on, bro. If you're going to do that, in my book, you're not even a human being. But again, I encourage you to watch this interview. And I say this all the time with joining the VIP and becoming a brand. With the special, the code word Swerve Live, it's less than $1 a week. It's $3.95 a month. If you don't like it, drop out after the first month. I mean that. If I don't deliver, don't come back the next month. But I'm telling you, the Kurt Angle interview is worth $3.95. And I'll go as far as this. Chris, you're not going to like this. I'm going to go as far as this. Are you ready for this, Chris? Is your mic on?
I don't know. It is on. I don't know if I'm ready for it, though.
Okay. Chris, I'm going to go as far as this. If somebody a new member comes along and pays the $3.95 and can honestly, Chris, write to us and tell us the Kurt Angle interview was disappointing and not worth the $3.95, I will gladly send you your money back. How's that? Does that work for you, Chris?
Look at you becoming the marketer now. Yeah, man, I think that's great, because I think you're right. And keep in mind, guys, if you don't sign up, if you haven't signed up and you don't know anything about the brand or the VIP area, I mean, you get Kurt Angle, obviously, and I agree. If the Kurt Angle interview isn't good enough alone for the $3.95, let us know and we'll give you your money back, no questions asked. Actually, that's not true. We might ask you a question. We'll ask you why you're out of your freaking mind. That being said, go to the rest of it. I mean, how many are we at now, Vince? 15 to 20 shoot interviews?
I think this may be 20, bro. We're really close to 20.
Every single one of them, I think save one, has been over an hour. Most of them are averaging around an hour and a half. And then not to mention the 3 additional podcasts you get from Vince Russo, the blogs that you get. And me and Vince have been talking about the brand and the road to 1,000. And guys, if you don't know about that, we're trying to get to 1,000 members. We're about halfway there. We've had an exceptional last couple of weeks. The road to 1,000. I want the brand to be everything that I want as a wrestling fan and more. And eventually, me and Vince have talked. We want it to be bigger than just Vince Russo, bigger than just his official website's VIP section. We have a lot of ideas for the brand, and we continue to try to introduce new things. Vince works his butt off every single day to try to give the brand everything they want. And then, of course, we still have the free site to maintain. We have this podcast to produce every week. So, at the end of the day, Vince is making a living, or attempting to make a living, writing for you guys and staying involved in the wrestling business. And I think it's incredible. Anybody that signs up for the brand, tell me if I'm wrong. Send us your emails if you didn't like the brand and you didn't sign up, or if you stopped signing up for a reason of I didn't like it. But everything is positive. Every person that signs up for the brand, 85% of them continue to sign up, and they send nothing but positive vibes and praises for signing up for the brand. So give it a shot. Go to pyroandballyhoo.com/VIP. Use the discount code Swerve Live and just check it out. And of course, let us know what you think after the fact. And just like Vince said, if you don't like it, no questions asked. Let us know. We'll refund your money.
And also, Chris, I want to give a little plug here because, once in a while, bro, listen, I sit here and I do wrestling 24/7. Okay. And I got to be honest with you, with the product the way it is. And I'm not going to say product because I enjoy Lucha Underground. I like that show on Wednesday nights for an hour. I got no issues with that. But the WWE, bro, with the way the product is, there's not a lot to talk about. So I got to find things to talk about. And, bro, it's amazing how everybody's talking about the CM Punk interview and the Vince McMahon and the Stone Cold Steve Austin interview because Raw's so bad. That's why they're talking about, we're looking to talk about anything else. So every now and then I need to take a diversion. I need to get off the wrestling thing a little bit. And I'm going to do that next week. And I'm going to tell you who my guest is. And I'm going to tell you why you need to tune in. I'm a huge baseball mark. I've been a baseball fan my entire life. I eat, breathe, and drink Major League Baseball. I watch the MLB network, hours, every single day. Next week on my show, I'm going to have a guy by the name of Sean Casey. Now, Sean Casey was an all-star first baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. This guy was a superstar, a great hitter. Later on in his career, he joined the Detroit Tigers. In the World Series, Sean Casey hit over 400 in the World Series for the Detroit Tigers. Phenomenal hitter. Now he's an analyst on MLB TV. Bro, the guy's the most entertaining thing on the network. The guy missed his calling because he should have been in the wrestling business. As a matter of fact, in baseball, they refer to him as the mayor. And the reason why they refer to him as the mayor is when he used to play first base, for the Reds and in the major leagues, when somebody would get a base hit and the runner would be on first, Sean Casey never shut up. He would talk to the guy the entire time. No matter who it was, he wouldn't shut up. He got the nickname the mayor. On top of that, okay, the reason he's coming on the Swerve is this guy's a huge wrestling fan. Huge wrestling fan, knows everything there is to know about the wrestling business. So what's going to happen is I'm going to mark out with him over professional baseball. I got a whole bunch of questions I want to ask him. He's going to mark out over me with professional wrestling. I know Sean Casey has even read my books because I met him on one occasion and he told me. So he's going to want to talk about wrestling. I'm going to want to talk about baseball. He's got a great personality. It's going to be a little bit of the both. But he's going to be my very special guest next week on the Swerve. 2 weeks from now. And listen, Chris, I know I'm going, but bro, we're at 1:45 at this point. I mean, a couple of minutes ain't going to matter. 2 weeks, King Kong Bundy. Listen, I'm just excited that Bundy's on the show. I just want to see what he looks like. This is Skype. I see Bundy. Bundy looks at me. Everybody on the VIP site, you're going to see Bundy. I want to see what Bundy looks like now. I haven't seen Bundy for years. I could tell you, I had a phone conversation with the guy. Bundy did stand-up comedy after his wrestling career. The guy is freaking hysterical. The guy has a personality that is out of this world. But, bro, when you talk about a King Kong Bundy, you're talking about a guy that I put right up there with Hulk Hogan. To me, that's what King Kong Bundy represented in the wrestling business. And, 2 weeks from now, he's going to be the special guest on the Swerve. So, Sean Casey next week, King Kong Bundy. I don't want to give you any more than that because we've already given you enough tonight. But, Chris, I want to tell you, first of all, as I always do, thank you for all your hard work. Every single day on the Swerve. Yeah, bro, are you a pain in the backside sometimes? Yeah, you're a pain in the neck, calling all hours of the night and everything else like this. But I put up with that. But, bro, I got to tell you, Chris, I think you're the hardest working man in the wrestling business. I mean, I tell you that. And tonight, we did it a little differently. You were more or less a co-host. And I got to tell you, I really enjoyed our conversations tonight. And I hope everybody else out there did as well.
Yeah, me too. And if there's gonna be any heat, just keep pushing it to Vince. Don't if you didn't like me being on the show, it's not my fault. It's Vince's. So always address the heat to him. And right back at you. I think you're the hardest working man. You're certainly a pain in the ass. I'll say it. I'm not. I don't have things holding me back. It's been an up and down roller coaster, but I feel like we're just getting started, Vince. I still feel like, Pyro and Ballyhoo and the brand. I mean, we just keep going this way. I think both of us, I think it's so funny because Vince has his moments and and let me give you a little insight to Vince here. Vince will call me up and you can tell he's down. Maybe a dirt sheet guy got under his skin. Maybe some fan came and got under his skin. Who knows? And Vince calls me up and he's down and he always feels like he has to do something. Always. He's got to do something to make it up. It doesn't matter who came out and said what, but Vince feels like he's got to give something back. And then, he'll have these moments where he's just, really down and we feel, he feels like he's just plateaued. And, man, are we going to be able to keep this thing going? Yet somehow, some way, the needle continues to go up. I mean, the brand is growing every single week. I think Vince and I 1,000 times over. Between May, I think we started, Vince, and now I think both of us have expected this thing to just stop at some point, and it hasn't. And I think that's a testament, number one, to you. Yeah, I have my hands in a lot of stuff in the back, on the back end, but primarily you, man. You keep it interesting. You keep putting it out there. People still recognize your passion. Amazing interviews like Kurt Angle was tonight, and the VIP which goes up later tonight. Once we get done with this, I got to go put that up. Every week, man, you continue to impress and the brand continues to grow, and that's what it's all about. And as soon as it stops, you and I will stop.
Yeah, and Chris, can I tell him about two more things? Listen, I know it's late and I know I'm keeping you, but I got to tell you about two more things. First of all, Chris, bro, listen, every Monday night, everybody hears me bellyache about Monday Night Raw. I get sick of hearing myself bellyache about Raw. I want it to be good. I want to put the show over. I'm tired of complaining about the show, but I'm the kind of guy that, listen, I can't count on them turning the show around. So I got to do something on my own. So, right now, Chris and I have a date for January 3rd, where now I'm going to get into fantasy booking. I've never done this before. I dabbled in it one night. I stumbled upon it. I had a blast. We're going to go into this now full bore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up Monday Nitro and the WC roster in January of 2000, like I never left, because that's when I left WCW, January of 2000. I'm going to pick it up like I never left. I'm going to book Monday Night Nitro every single week with the same roster that was there in 2000 as if I had never left. And I'm talking about Sting, DDP, Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, Guerrero was there, Malenko was there, Benoit was there, Shane Douglas was there, Ric Flair was there. I'm going to book 2000 Nitro as if I never left the company because I can't watch rabbits anymore on Monday night. I can't do it. I gotta book my own promotion, so I'm gonna book Nitro. But then, Chris, me and Chris are talking about this too. I may be a little bit more excited about this than I am about the fantasy booking with Nitro. And Chris, we were even talking about this during the Kurt Angle interview, and I've been all over you for this. I'm going to say it now. Chris has been asleep at the wheel, not me, because I've been all over him. He's been asleep at the wheel. But Chris, I think it's safe to say now, within the next couple of weeks, we will find a way to start incorporating some hot chicks into Pyro and Ballyhoo. Is that correct, Mr. Cash?
Yeah, I got an email, and if you're still tuning into this, the person that wrote me the email, we are going to be in touch with you. Vince has been on a kick ever since he came back from Pittsburgh and met the lovely ladies of Chair Shot Reality. We have to have some hot women a part of the show. I don't do it for him for some reason. I'm never shaving. I don't know what the problem is. He needs some hot women. I don't object to it. And we're gonna try to do that. So yeah, we've got some things in mind. Some women might be involved in Pyro and Ballyhoo, or even more specifically and further the brand. So more stuff to look forward to. Again, always innovative. Vince is creative. We continue to try to come up with new things.
Now, Chris, do you think it's fair to say, and can I get you to admit right here, right now, because, bro, I know the gig. I'm a lot older than you, bro. Look at the gray. I've been around the block many times. Is it fair to say that you've kind of held these hot chicks out in order to protect your own spot, like the wrestling business? Is that fair to say, bro?
Yeah, and I'm not even injured, I'm worried about losing my spot right in front of my face, Yeah, it's funny. No, I'm not. I think it's gonna be good. It's just a matter of nailing, down all the details and getting it set up, man. Vince, you're a lot like me. I'm a lot like you. We go 90-0. We have all kinds of things. It's just hammering down the details and just getting them out there. The fantasy booking thing you're talking about is going to be great. The women, once we get them involved, and we've got 1,000 things, man, that we're trying to toss around and see. And guys, keep in mind, Vince listens to you as well. You can email him, vince@pyroandballyhoo.com. I listen to you. Tweet him also, at PyroBallyhoo on Twitter. If you're a member of the brand, if you're not a member of the brand, either way, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want going forward. That's what it's all about.
Hey, Chris,
Vince McMahon says he listens to the fans. I don't agree. I don't think that he has been. We do, Vince. You and I listen to him, and if they say they want it, we give it
Chris,
to them.
bro, listen. This is an absolute shoot, bro. I wasn't gonna comment on the CM Punk interview because bro, listen. It's Punk's interview. I believe what Punk said. I'm not going to sit here and judge Punk and pick apart Punk's comments. I listened to his interview. Bro, I believe everybody, he's telling the truth. I don't think CM Punk has any reason to lie. So I wasn't going to comment on it. But then, the brand and, everybody started commenting. Did you hear the Punk interview? Did you hear the Punk interview? We'd love to hear your insights into the Punk interview. So I sat down and I listened to the 2-hour Punk interview because that's what everybody wanted. And then I reported, my thoughts on it. But again, yeah, bro, absolutely. If there's something you want me to do, I even know, listen, and I want to say this too, on the VIP site, we have our forum, and I haven't been in as much lately, the last 10 days or so. But as I said to you, my son Will was on the show last week, and he's still in town. He's not going home till tomorrow. So he's been here for about 8 or 9 days or so. I hadn't seen Will in a year and a half. So quite honestly, I was trying to spend as much time with him as I possibly could. So I may have slipped up on a few things, but you have my word that I'm going to get back in, the forum starting tomorrow. And I'll be active in the forums. I'll be active, with the blogs and the comments and everything else like that. Chris, did we say anything at the top of the show? Are there any questions? Bro, we're 6 minutes away from a 2-hour show. So are there any questions on Twitter or anything like that somebody might want to ask?
We can get to a few here real quick. Just a quick spitball fire, quick stuff here. Adam Daly wants to know, do you think Hunter was a roadblock between Punk and Vince? Is that where the miscommunication came from?
Well, again, bro, I can, listen, there is only one side of this interview. I don't think Hunter's going to talk. I don't think Vince is going to say anything else. When you listen to the Punk interview, he says Hunter did not like me. I have to believe Punk feels that way. Now, whether Hunter liked him or not, you're not going to know unless Hunter says something. I believe Punk feels that Hunter, for whatever reason, didn't like him. Do I know if that's true or not? I have absolutely no idea.
Vince, what do you think of the New Japan Pro Wrestling and Global Force Wrestling product for Wrestling Kingdom 9 and JR commentating?
Well, first of all, it's absolutely tremendous that JR is behind the microphone again. I mean, absolutely tremendous. I just wish, bro, not for anything, with Global Force Wrestling, bro, Jeff's been talking about this thing now. It's got to be going on for a year. I mean, with the videos and whatever, bro. We've been hearing about Global Force Wrestling for about a year now. Now, they're gonna do the first big show, and the show happens to be, over in Japan. So that probably means, half Japanese stars that we don't know, half American stars. Bro, again, I don't know. If there's going to be a Global Force Wrestling, I wish there was a Global Force Wrestling here in the United States with, wrestlers that we knew and we were familiar with. I'm not a wrestling guy. I'm not a match guy. So I'm not going to pay money to see half a roster full of wrestlers that I don't know. I'm not going to do. Other people will. Other people love the Japanese wrestling. They buy that for the wrestling. I'm not that guy, bro. I'm an entertainment guy. That's why I enjoy Lucha Underground. I enjoy the entertainment aspect. I enjoy the flash. I enjoy the hot girls. I enjoy the minis. I enjoy the guy on girl matches. I love that stuff. But, straightforward, good 20-minute wrestling matches, I'm just not that guy. That's just my opinion.
Few more quick questions, Vince. Super Turbo Force wants to know, do you think enough young people are watching wrestling for it to be big in the future? He personally doesn't think so.
It depends. Chris, what do you think he means by young people? Can you give me an age? That's important. That's important to the question. I don't know what he means
but this goes back to your idea that, this guy kind of seems to think, there's young kids working, so it'll be big down the line. That's the whole mindset of the wrestling is cyclical. You know what I mean? I think that kind of goes back to that whole mentality.
Yeah. Hey, bro, listen, if I'm not going to say wrestling because I like Lucha Underground, and I'm going to give TNA the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what they put out there on the new network. If the WWE doesn't get better, people are going to stop watching it. Yep. I mean, it's that simple. They already have. The ratings have gone down. If they don't get better, less and less people are going to watch it. I don't care if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or tomorrow. If the show's good, they'll watch it. If it's not good, they're not going to watch it.
Joey Pitt wants to know, why did Kane only hold the WWF title for 1 day? I'm assuming you were a part of that?
Bro, I wish I can remember. I mean, that's one of those things, Chris, where, so much happened so fast that I don't even know what he's referring to be honest with you.
And finally, I didn't even know this was true, but B wants to know, are you looking forward to part 2 of the Punk on Cabana podcast this Thursday?
Well, yeah, I think the part 2, bro, because they talked about it briefly. I think the part 2 is the question and answer thing. So obviously, bro, I mean, if I've invested this much time into it thus far, I'm sure, I'll listen to the second half of it. Maybe Punk will hit upon something that he didn't say in the first half of it. So yeah, no, I'll definitely be tuning into that.
Guys, I just want to say this one more time before Vince closes it out. If you haven't joined the brand, do so. We have the discount code Swerve Live, and of course this week it's all about Kurt Angle. We're going to be trying to get as much press as we possibly can. We're pushing for the road to 1,000 members, so spread the word. I've been trying to get Vince out of his comfort zone a little bit, and Vince, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. We talked about this last week, or in this past week. I think it would be great, and Vince is trying to come up. If any of the women listening, if any of the women have any ideas of how we can do it, but Vince, you've agreed to if you can find a way that's not permanent or semi-permanent or whatever, you've agreed to quote unquote dye your hair, even though you have this fundamental thing of I don't know what the problem was to begin with, but you have something against dyeing your hair black, which I think would be fun to do. So if we reach a certain amount of members between now and next week, I think next week if we find the solution that's not permanent, it's not technically dyeing your hair, but something that can wash out the next day basically is what you told me you'd be willing to do. So what would be the number, man? And what do we have to hit to get?
First of all, bro, hold on a minute. Now you've gone over to 2 a.m. in the morning mark, and this needs to be addressed. I've never said I'd do anything because, bro, I'm gray. Okay, I'm 53 and I'm gray because I believe if you dye your hair. If you use, you dye your beard, a little touch of gray, whatever it is I believe you're a phony. I believe you're a phony, bro. I got no problem with gray hair and a gray beard or none of that stuff. Because you know what, bro? Gray hair is wisdom, Chris. So the grayer I get, the more and more wisdom I get, and the more and more wisdom comes across the key. I'm kind of like Yoda. I hate to compare myself to Yoda, but the more gray, the more wisdom. If you want any of this dyed, bro, it's got to be something phenomenal, bro.
All right. Some people, perceive it as wisdom. Some people just look at it as old, out of touch. It's a perception thing, man. I'm protecting you. I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to rejuvenate Vince Russo. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, we can get a live appearance from Vic Venom if and when, you can't do that with the gray hair, man. I just don't think it would come off that well.
Bro, I already suggested, I have no problem. Go back to the WWE magazine days, the people that follow me that back. I have no problem with the Informer making a visit on the Swerve under a hood, under a mask, so his true identity isn't revealed. I have no problem with that. The dying, bro, something's big's got to happen for that, bro.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. We'll come up with what that's going to be. In the meantime, guys, help us out, too. If you want to see Vince do something, if you want to see Vince, anything. I mean, it can really be anything. But just gives an incentive, basically, for more people to join the brand. And I think when you do join the brand, you give it a shot, you're going to love it. So, guys, I'm going to extend this. Vince and I are going to extend this discount. $3.95 for life. We don't give these out that often. We'll do a lot of introductory prices, but then it goes to the full $5.95 price. If you want to try out the brand, check it out. $3.95. Use the discount code SWERVELIVE. We're going to discount or extend this a little bit this week and try to capitalize on the phenomenal interview. Everybody's tweeting about it already during the live interview, Vince. Everybody loved the Kurt Angle interview. You'll love the VIP interview, so go check it out. But because of that, we're going to extend it this week, try to get some new members of the brand. So if you're already a brand member, make sure you're tweeting about it. Tell everybody why they should become one as well. So, Vince, take us home, man. It's been a good show.
It's been a great show, Chris. Thank you for everything. Thank everybody that stayed up this late to see the show live. I thank you. I know we're well into 2 o'clock on the East Coast, and I thank you. I hoped you were entertained, and we will see. I'll see you Friday, bucket full of chicken necks. I'll see you there on Friday, and I will catch you on the rebound. Breakfast Club, take us home.
It's right about time again to swerve again, confuse the general fans again. Add another swerve and then put it on a poll again. Put it on a poll again. Put it on the poll again. And our square to quad is gonna get emotional as I wait to overbook the damn cards. I'm losing confidence.